June is shaping up to be a great month for new entries in long-running video game series, as Final Fantasy XVI is almost here. The latest game arrives nearly 7 years after the last numbered entry in the mainline series, with this chapter returning to its fantasy genre roots, with a darker medieval tale revolving around magic, political drama, and war. It's one of the biggest and most highly anticipated games on PlayStation 5 in 2023, and with that in mind, is everything you need to know about Final Fantasy XVI. Final Fantasy XVI takes place in Valistea, a high fantasy world embroiled in political drama focused around dominance. Dominants are the few special people who can call upon the power of the Eikons, which are what summons are called in Final Fantasy XVI's world. Eikons and dominants by extension are akin to powerful weapons of war that shift the balance of power between realms in Valistea. The game will cover 3 separate time frames in Final Fantasy XVI's story, which you can see from main character Clive Rosefield's evolution from a spiffy young man with a fancy haircut to a grizzled veteran with a mark tattooed on his face later in life. The game's producer Naoki Yoshida confirmed that it will tell Clive's story from his teens, 20s, and 30s. Clive is the son of his realm's Archduke, and wields Eikon-related powers in combat, but did not inherit being the dominant of Phoenix himself. He's sworn to protect his younger brother Joshua, who was fated as Phoenix's dominant instead. However, Joshua couldn't control his Eikon. He summons Phoenix after watching someone presumably important get killed right before his eyes. These events are capped by a battle between Phoenix and Ifrit, which might be the tragedy that drives Clive in Final Fantasy XVI. Another character is Jill Warwick. She is the dominant of the Eikon Shiva, and is said to have a complicated life and comes from another realm. She was essentially adopted by the Rosefields and acts as a mediator between warring nations. Clive will also be accompanied by his trusty companion, the dog Torgal, and his pawn in crime Sidolphus Telamon, who's a sort of revolutionary leader, freeing the branded who are magic users subjugated by their nations. He's also the dominant of Ramuh, and this game's version of the series' long-running character, Cid. Final Fantasy XVI's world also revolves around mother crystals, which are said to bless the land with ether, which is magic. Nations are built around mother crystals, and they're the crux of political strife, but a destructive force called the Blight is also washing over the world. This will also be the first Final Fantasy game to receive an M rating, which Square Enix told GameSpot was an intentional move to make a more mature story. According to the game's rating, the upcoming Final Fantasy will include sex scenes and plenty of violence, including blood, intentional deaths, torture, victim suffering, and hate crimes. Final Fantasy XVI takes on an action RPG style of combat and looks like it shares some similarities to Final Fantasy XV and FF7 Remake. Ryota Suzuki, who was a combat designer for Devil May Cry 5 and Dragon's Dogma, is the battle director for Final Fantasy XVI, and game director Hiroshi Takai has stated that the game was also inspired by Sony's God of War reboot titles, both in its gameplay and the design of its semi-open world. In combat, protagonist Clive can engage at melee range with his sword and gap-closing abilities, and use elemental powers that are tied to Eikons, with him picking up new ones over the course of the game. You'll be able to customize your moves to mix and match them and swap Eikons in battle. While Clive is the central character and the player protagonist, he won't be the only adventurer on a quest. Clive will be accompanied by AI-controlled party members who will banter and connect throughout the game, as well as his faithful buddy Torgal, to whom you can give direct commands to. You'll also be able to customize Clive throughout his adventure by investing experience into his skill tree, and those abilities can be reset at any time during your journey. To explore the world, players can travel to different locations via a world map, which will be updated with new and evolving areas as the game progresses. Final Fantasy XVI is not an open-world game, and there will instead be several open zones to explore and dungeon-like levels to fight through. Cid's Hideaway, a headquarters for Clive, will be unlocked later in the game, and is where the protagonist can upgrade his gear, buy new weapons and armor, train in a special area, and pick up new side quests. Final Fantasy XVI will allow you to tweak its difficulty, but rather than this happening through an in-game menu, you'll be able to fine-tune the challenge with 5 special rings that grant different types of assistance. For example, you can simplify combat with one ring that works by pressing one button that automatically controls your combos. Another ring extends the window for a successful dodge, and you can equip these rings in 2 of your 3 accessory slots. This means that you'll have to choose which combination of rings best suits your playstyle, and each slot taken up by one of the assist rings means one fewer accessory that you can use to customize Clive's other abilities. The biggest new gameplay addition, and perhaps the game's biggest draw, is its Eikon battles. Yoshida told GameSpot in an interview that these Eikon battles will all be unique. One might emulate a wrestling match, while another might look like a 3D shooter, for just 2 examples, and estimated there are roughly 20 of them in all. Final Fantasy XVI is scheduled to release exclusively for PlayStation 5 on June 22nd, 2023. Square Enix has confirmed Final Fantasy XVI is eventually coming to PC, and its PlayStation 5 exclusivity will end December 31st, 2023. While this does not necessarily mean Final Fantasy XVI will hit PC immediately after, it theoretically could release at any point after that date. No word if the game will eventually come to Xbox. 3 different in-game items are available when pre-ordering the game, but whether you get them depends on which version you opt for. Just about every retailer is offering the Cat Sith charm, which boosts the rate at which you gain gil, along with the Braveheart weapon. But the Scholar's Spectacles, which boosts XP gain, is only available with the following editions: the Digital Standard and Digital Deluxe editions, and the Collector's Edition. For physical collectors, Best Buy is offering a free steelbook case with every edition of the game. The physical deluxe edition retails for $100 and comes with a cloth world map of Valistea and the special Clive Rosefield steelbook case. It's worth noting that the Clive Rosefield steelbook is different from the steelbook offered with Best Buy pre-orders, so purchasing from that retailer will actually net you 2 unique steelbooks. The collector's edition of Final Fantasy XVI costs a hefty $350, but comes with a plethora of collectibles that certainly make the steep cost worth it for die-hard Final Fantasy fans. If you purchase the collector's edition along with any pre-order bonuses, you'll also receive the following: a premium statue of Phoenix vs. Ifrit, a metal icon pin collection, the special Clive Rosefield steelbook case, the cloth world map of Valistea, a bonus in-game weapon, the Blood Sword, a digital mini art book and mini soundtrack, and the Realms of Valistea wall banners. And that's everything to know about Final Fantasy XVI before its launch on June 22nd. Let us know your hype levels for the game in the comments below, and stay tuned to GameSpot for additional Final Fantasy XVI coverage.